Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. Thank you so much for joining me. One moment. Let me go ahead and cover this thing that I need to cover. There we go. That works. It's been a very, very long road to get me to this particular point. I finally hit the umbrella with the big picture of my thing, my partner. And what I realized was it's an eighth perspective relationship. Those are the words. And I explained when you walk into the eighth perspective, you're in a place where, well, when you walk into the seventh perspective, you lose all language because there are no words for what's over here. There's no words. Suddenly, word like, for instance, masculine and feminine is a video I'm going to be doing here shortly and this week. And the word masculine and feminine don't exist in the seventh and eighth perspective. They don't exist. It does not exist. Transgender people are going to love the eighth perspective. It's like a perspective that was made for them. Transgender people are ethically eights, and they can't. Hi, transgender people, you get it. Like they get it. They are actually the eighth perspective, but they can't communicate it. They can't identify it. They can't articulate any of this. And that's the point. Transgender people are here. And they're in a world of fourth perspectives, which is the common perspective. So I get it. As soon as you cross into the seventh, gender stops existing. Masculine and feminine stop. Brave New World, the Netflix show Brave New World and the book, that's where we're at. That's the eighth perspective. But the language just doesn't exist over here. So you're trying to communicate and articulate a language, concepts that have not been defined. And one of the most common words that gets thrown around a lot is compersion. This is a word that comes out of polyamory. This is very much a word. And the best I've seen people describe it is it's the opposite of jealousy. No, it's not. Oh my God, no, it's not. And when I first heard that definition, every little gorgeous fiber in my DNA screamed, that's illogical. Jealousy is a compound emotion that consists of three emotions: insecurity, neglect, and fear, fear of rejection. Compersion is not those things. It is not the opposite of those three things. Compersion is the emotion of aligning with another person. It is pure alignment. Now, I have had this with my partner since day one. And empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. But compersion is being inside their shoes. I went to the hospital on Wednesday of this week, and my partner was keep me posted. And he followed it every step of the way. Are you okay? And he updates what's going on. He checked in. It is a type of emotion that when he is sad, I am sad. When he is in pain, I am in pain. I emotionally hurt when he emotionally hurts. When he is emotionally happy, I am emotionally happy, and vice versa. It's not codependency. That is all fear-based. This compersion, you don't get compersion unless it is love-based. And I do mean fucking love-based on a level. Now, I have friends. I have people that I care about. I don't want to see them hurt. And when I hear about bad things happening to them, I feel bad for them, but I don't feel bad. With him, I feel bad. And it's not because I'm afraid of how it's going to affect me. No. That is a fear emotion. That's all the way over there. That has nothing to do with it. That's narcissism and that's codependency and that's needing someone. That's absent here. Compersion is when you feel what they feel. Period. It is not a desire for them to have happiness with or without you. That's what I thought it was. No, this is something different. This is pure alignment. And he has felt it for me since day one. He still feels it for me. But I have struggled feeling it until now because it's an eighth perspective emotion. It is an eighth perspective emotion. You do not get compersion until it is extraordinary. It's very powerful. And there's self-preservation. And this is all the words just finally came together. There is self there's self-preservation. That's part of the ethic. When you have your ethic is you must self-preserve. That comes in at the sixth perspective, self-preservation. Now that it starts at fifth perspective. Fifth perspective is really when you start to self-preserve. Perspectives 1 through 4, there is no self-preservation, but perspectives 5, 6, 7, and 8, everything on, oh, there's self-preservation. It's a different type of self-preservation, 1 through 4, where it's just physical self-preservation or it's mental self-preservation. Yeah, that's it. It's physical and mental self-preservation. But when you get to the fifth perspective, it becomes emotional and ethical self-preservation. That's the difference. That's what people lack who are in the first through fourth perspective. That's why we get abused, is because we lack ethical self-preservation. We lack perspective self-preservation prior to the fifth perspective, which opens us up for abuse. You have to be taught that shit, but you're not taught that because your parents were most likely second, third, fourth perspectives. You have to be a fifth perspective to teach this to your children. But if you're not, you don't. And all of us, most of us, were born to parents who are of the second, third, fourth perspective. This makes so much sense now. Like everything just went crump. So when you fall in love in the eighth perspective, there's this comprehension of unconditional love. Now, this is beyond the red flags. Conditional love is something that if I can't use you, then I don't need you. That's conditional love. Process that. That's conditions. If I can't use you, if you can't serve me, then I don't need you. That's conditional love. There's also conditional belonging. You can't be here if you don't do what I say. How many of our parents said that to us? My house, my rules, find another place to live. Oh, you don't like my rules? You need to leave. That's conditional belonging. Every one of us was raised by that garbage. And we wonder why everything's all fucked up. Because we were raised on conditional love. That's why. Unconditional love is I respect your perspective. I respect who you are. I respect you as an individual. Now there's boundaries. There's you are not allowed to treat me like that. That is called perspective self-preservation. So when you have unconditional love, it is supposed to be partnered with self-preservation, but it's not. You lose the self-preservation and people are screaming conditional love. No, unconditional love and self-preservation. Now, my partner and I have had that from day one. We both have self-preservation and we both have unconditional love. I went through my shit fest of shadow work and it hurt him. I was a fourth perspective, then fifth, then sixth. So I hadn't developed the ethics and the awareness of your actions are hurting the people you love. That doesn't hit until the sixth perspective, the end of the fifth. So I finally got to the fifth and sixth perspective, and we broke up. That's common perspective language for we distanced ourselves. And this is where things started to get difficult with he and I. Not with he and I, but with culture, with society, and with our friends, because our friends are all talking in the fourth perspective. So according to them, we broke up, but we didn't, because we exist on the eighth perspective. So we're using language that doesn't exist. And we've got friends and a community who only understands fourth perspective. So they're all going, oh, he's your ex. Oh, he broke up. No, we are doing something different, but there's no words. And in order to communicate to our friends what these words are, we have to literally give them an entire language base so they understand. So we have like this kind of a thing now. We call it a thing because it's not defined, because there are no words for it. There really are no words for it. We have no idea what it is. We call it being single together because when we're together, we preserve our autonomy. In the fourth perspective, in the common society, it's a practice that your autonomy becomes, or your relationship becomes your autonomy. We don't do that. So we are single together. Like I said, there's no language for this yet. And that's been part of our problem from day one, is the lack of language. His first language is silence. So it requires that I learn how to communicate with him and how he communicates without using a language. Because he's been in the eighth perspective for so long that he has not been able to articulate any of this. He just believes, feels, and exists, and no one understands him. So he's labeled as stonewalling, and people throw him away. I have been able to piece together massive amounts of clues from the last 2 years to realize, oh my God, he's eighth perspective. He has no language to communicate any of this shit because it's so abstract. And what he has been able to piece together, most people can't comprehend because he lives in the eighth perspective. And that has caused him to be significantly isolated. He is very ahead of his time. And as I grew ethically and got closer and closer to him, I thought I was losing him. I thought we were breaking up, because that's fourth perspective mentality, when in fact I was actually getting closer to him, because now I'm in the eighth perspective. And now that I'm here, I went, oh my God, you've been here the whole damn time. He has been here since day one. It looks like I hypothesized that he got to the eighth perspective 10 years ago. My partner is an eighth perspective, which is why I don't date. Like, I have an eighth perspective. Why would I ever look elsewhere? So he understands me perfectly. He understands everything. He gets this stuff. He's literally just been waiting for me to get there with him, hoping that I would, not certain if I would. So we distanced ourselves because self-preservation, that is our ethic. And it was, 100%. We distanced ourselves. I had to learn a lot of shit. And today, it was this massive realization. Once I had the information with friendships, I was able to plug it all in and go, oh, perspective shift. And then I could see it. And I went, oh, son of a bitch, the whole fucking time. The whole fucking time. So let me translate relationships to you in the eighth perspective. You have a thing. It is completely and totally interdependent, so that you have an identity and an autonomy, and they have an identity and autonomy. You both have authority. You both have autonomy. There is no power struggle because there is no hierarchy. It's just the two of you side by side, taking turns supporting each other and cheering each other on. You are aligned emotionally so that if one of you is out of alignment, oh, you feel it because their alignment is just so in tuned with your alignment that you just feel it. This is twin flames, by the way. So that if he's having an off day, I feel it. And then I can use mine to pull him back. When he's having a bad day and he needs to forget something, I know to send him memes or comics or something that's going to lighten his heart. When he withdraws, I know he's afraid of the conflict now and he's trying to avoid the conflict because he struggles using boundaries because he's a Taurus, or I'm sorry, because he's a Cancer, and he avoids conflict. Cancers do not do conflict. They are givers. They are the ultimate givers. They will give until they drain and they're a husk, which is the problem. I have to be sensitive to that. He should be learning the boundaries, but he needs to learn to do this on his own, and it's going to take him however long it takes him. It requires patience from me and a sensitivity to him to orchestrate it. So you learn each other's language. You learn each other's dance. You learn each other's ethical culture. That's a great word. Ethical culture. When you come together in a partnership, you are stepping into their ethical culture and their personal language. And either you learn it or you don't. And that's all I have been doing with him for the last year, is learning his ethical culture and his personal language. Because we are aligned. So if I hurt, he hurts. If I'm sad, he's sad. If he's sad, I'm sad. But we have a neutral zone so that we are both now in the neutral zone. This is something you don't get until you are in the seventh and eighth perspective. This is how relationships are, all of them. There is a neutral zone when you are both aligned, you are both at peace, and everything is fine. And if somebody goes this way, the other person can pull them back into the neutral. And if you go this way, the other person can pull you back into the neutral. So you end up anchoring each other. So you maintain the neutral balance in that perfect existence of the fifth, perfect fifth, harmony. Now, in a codependent relationship, this person is drowning and dying. Well, no, let's rephrase it. Yeah, this person is drowning and dying and has no ego. And this one constantly needs an ego to be fed. Ego, such a bad word. Let's try this differently. Not a bad word, misused too often. We're gonna reverse this around again. This one has no sense of importance. This one has all the sense of importance. And this one will use this one to feed its sense of importance. That's codependency. So this one will give and give, and this one will take and take. Just it's absolutely a parasitic relationship. That's codependency. When you have two anxious attachments, then they infuse each other and they suffocate each other and they hold on to each other like this, terrified of letting go. This is another kind of codependency where you both cling to the other to the point where you're choking each other out. Imagine a hand on each other's throats and you're just choking and choking. You are feeding each other's life source until you consume each other and you're dead. There's nothing left. Romeo and Juliet were that way. Romeo and Juliet were that type of codependent. Yeah. Were they just infused and suffocated to the point of death? It's because both of them used each other to supplement each other's identity. So when you have codependent relationships, those are your options. The parasite or the full consumption? Which are you? If you're not codependent, perhaps you avoid relationships because as soon as you get into relationships, you enter into one of those two, you're still codependent. You're just now avoiding and isolating because you don't know how to manage that. But when you find the proper balance of relationship, you learn how to stand neutral side by side with interdependence so that when one of you shifts off, you can anchor gently and just pull them back into neutrality. But it requires you learn each other's ethical culture and personal language. One of them is usually a protector. That's me. And the other is the nurturer. That's him. Fourth perspectives love to come along and say, all the boys are protectors and all the girls are the nurturers. Now you're getting into masculine and feminine. That doesn't work in the eighth perspective. That does not work in the seventh perspective. In the seventh and the eighth perspective, all that goes away. Woohoo, welcome trans people. Love trans people. That's where they come home. That's where they are. Because they already see the world without gender. Now, unfortunately, and I know what this is. Oh my God, let's psychoanalyze this. You have somebody from the fourth perspective who is absolutely so obsessed with making sure everyone fits, boys on one side, girls on the other. And you have someone with an ethical eight perspective. The ethical eights are the transgender people. I love it when a straight person comes to me and says to me, straight, God, I hate that word, as if everyone else is crooked. Again, eighth perspective. So when a straight person comes to me and says that they are absolutely of the eighth perspective, but they can't see the perspectives. They still think in terms of gender, which is 100% a fourth perspective definition. They still think in the concept of the feminine and the masculine. No, you lose that when you hit the seventh perspective. That's the first thing that strips off of you. That's why you go into isolation in the seventh, is because everything you thought you knew stops existing, including gender. Gender is the first thing to go. You don't think in gender. It stops. You think of protector, nurturer. And we all have nurturer, protector inside of us. It's a different ratio for each person. I am 80% protector and 20% nurturer. Sometimes I'm 90% protector and 10% nurturer. I really struggle with nurturing, which is why when my children cry, I'm going, what do I do with that? I don't understand because I'm not a nurturer. But my partner sees people crying. Oh, and he's got that covered. He's all over that. And I'm going, wow, like I can't do that. I just don't understand nurturer mentality. But that kind of box thinking, and it's different for everyone. So when you have somebody who's of the eighth perspective and they get to the fourth perspective and the fourth perspective forces them in their box, now they have trauma associated. That is absolutely trauma. So you might have a transgender person who is so anti, don't call me those pronouns don't match. Now it's two things. One, they are most definitely eighth perspective when they are using pronouns. Absolutely eighth perspective. And they also probably have trauma associated with pronouns. So they now have a trigger response to the words man or woman or he or she because they were abused so severely because they're of the eighth perspective. So then somebody comes along and says to me, oh, I'm of the eighth perspective. Okay, the only ones who can make that claim are transgender people. Really, truly. Transgenders are the only people who can make a claim to being eighth perspective because that's why they're transgender, is because they see it already. You get into the seventh perspective and you stop seeing gender. And I feel so stupid. My partner said it to me. Masculine and feminine are things of the patriarchy. It is a societal label that people put on us. And I heard him say that to me when we first met, and I was like, what? And then I got to the seventh perspective and I went, oh my God, my partner is here. That's how I found out. I got to the seventh perspective and I went, he's here. He's been here. I could see how clearly he speaks of the eighth perspective. My partner moves between all the perspectives easily. He's been here for 10 years. without any of the ability to communicate it. The purpose of the eighth perspective is communication. That is what you are supposed to be mastering. Every perspective has a goal, has something they are supposed to be working on. The eighth perspective, you are supposed to be working on communication. If your communication skills suck, you're going to be stuck in the eighth perspective for a long time. My communication skills are phenomenal. I am a writer. So my mastery of word is phenomenal. But it requires you open your throat chakra and talk. Now, for somebody who's been in the eighth perspective for 10 years in isolation, so now he speaks silence fluently. But because I'm a master communicator, I can now read the language of silence. Yeah, that's how fucking good you get. You can read the language silence. It's amazing to watch. So now I can communicate with him. That's what's been happening. When I got here, I found out that I could start communicating with him. And I've been able to communicate. And that has drawn us closer. And the more I talk to him, the more it draws us closer because I'm able to give to him the words that he has been needing for 10 years. And that brings us to compersion. It is when you are aligned with another person. I was able to say to him, we are aligned. That's all this is. He and I, our thing is an alignment. But our friends are all in the fourth perspective. Well, there's six perspectives. All of our friends are fifth and sixth perspectives, mostly sixth. But they live in the fourth perspective, their environment. So they're all communicating with the fourth perspective, not realizing it. And they'll say things like, oh, you're his ex. No, not the same thing. And I'll write him these letters and I will lay it all out. And I can see the ethical culture, the personal language. I can see the compersion and the alignment. I can see the gender going away. Man and wife, they don't exist in the seventh and eighth perspective. None of it exists here. What you have is alignment. There's nurturer, there's protector. And there's a ratio and a balance between nurturer and protector. And every person has it inside of us. And there's the alignment. And it's an anchor that pulls each other back and forth into the neutral zone as needed. It is absolutely a beautiful balance of existence. Absolutely beautiful. Every time I hear a sixth perspective mention the divine feminine, I cringe. There is nothing I hate to hear more than the divine feminine. That's patriarchal garbage. There is no masculine. There is no feminine. And if you're still thinking in those terms, you have not left the patriarchy. You have not left the system. Because once you get out of the system, gender stops existing. It's a category. It's a category. It's just one more label. I go by the pronoun we. I have, for God's sakes, Bergen's a man. One of my personalities is a man, a 6'2" man. He's still inside of me. I have a dude inside of me. And it's when you get away from the box and you see something completely different, it opens up an entirely new world. I talk a lot about this. My favorite anime is One Piece. And there is a character named Ivan. Okay, I need to give you some background. I'll be very brief. One Piece is Pirates of the Caribbean meets Marvel Comics. Imagine Everybody on the Black Pearl has a superpower. Oh, yeah. This is my shit. The captain is Monkey D. Luffy, and people have the option to eat a fruit. This is called a devil's fruit. The devil's fruit comes from an island. And when you eat the fruit on this island, it gives you a special power. So there's the invisibility fruit, the gum fruit, the rubber fruit, the giraffe fruit. There's three types. I'm not going to get into the anime's lore. That's a dangerous territory for me. I could talk for hours on One Piece. I'm instead going to draw the attention to Ivan. Ivan ate the hormone fruit. The hormone fruit. So he can inject hormones and use them however he wants to create whatever body and gender he wants. So his warfare is injecting hormones into a man and turning him into a woman, or turning a woman into a man. He can do a lot with hormones. Gender is just hormones. If hormones can fluctuate that easily, really suddenly starts. I love, 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 love the transgender community. I love LGBTQ. Those are my people. Those are my people. And I go to events where they have transgender contests who can pull off. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. My God, I love it. It's so beautiful. And I was actually at a bar yesterday on the way home because I'm going to be hosting an event at at a transgender bar, queer bar in the East Village. Oh my God, I love it. And it was so funny. I was talking to the bartender and he gave me the card. He went over the information and I went just gaga. He started to get me a drink and I stopped him. I'm like, I'm not here for a drink. I'm here because I want to host an event. And we talked for a bit and I said, I love that it's queer based. Like that is queer owned. I'm all over that shit. And he said to me, what's your name? And I said, Anna Imagination. And he went, oh, honey. And I went, oh, yeah, you got my number. That's right. Anna Imagination. Those are my people. And it's beautiful. Faye touched. They get it. They see the world as it will be. As it will be. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. And when I'm at these events, you'll look at some of them and it is astounding to see with hormones, not even hormones, just the way some people are. Jazz is this way. You look at someone like Jazz. I watched Jazz. Jazz is one of the most famous transgender people in the world. She is the leading transgender idol out there. From the time she was born, she's a girl. She's a girl, but she was born a male. And her parents allowed her to just be her true, authentic self. And I watched that girl's story. She lives here in New York City. I think she does anyway. I'm pretty sure. I know she goes to the Pride Parade in June. I know she's here in June. And I Am Jazz is the name of her book, but I have watched more documentaries on her. She's amazing. And just watching the way she developed naturally before she was even on a hormone treatment. She's amazing. Gender is an opinion. It's a box that people put hormones into. I hate boxes. Transvestites and transgender people not only are the first out of those boxes, but they shatter those boxes and then they put themselves on the front line. Front line. They put themselves on the front line. Transgender people to me are the most courageous, beautiful people in the world. Because they fucking shatter those boxes and say, fuck you. And then they put themselves out there on that line. They are commendable. I love transgender people. You can hide if you're gay. You can hide if you're a lesbian. But if you're transgender, you can't hide that. You can hide being a transvestite only to a certain extent. That's why they call it coming out of the closet. But if you're transgender, you can't hide that. You are on the front lines, and it is fucking courage. I love the LGBTQ community. I commend them. And they take some of the most horrific abuse for it, which is why I created the garden. In a lot of ways, I made it for them. Because they were the ones that hurt the most. Perspective abuse is fucking ugly. By the time we're done here, you're going to realize something. I use the words, they hurt the most, for everybody. Yeah. Figure it out. Everyone hurts the most. Narcissists hurt the most. Transgender people hurt the most. Rape victims hurt the most. I'm curious to see the translations that people come up with on that the most. Eighth perspective talk. So that's part of what I do, is just defining this. But it's beautiful because once I defined it, once I figure all this out and the language is there and the comprehension and I see the umbrella and I finally can define it all. And then I send my partner the email I sent him of, okay, this is the situation. And I lay it all out and I understand. And then I step back and I go, well, I'm done with that. I'm going to just set it over there now. Now I can focus on this over here. And that's exactly what I do. Once I figure out something, my brain just, finally, understand. Okay, got it. Comprehension achieved. Mission accomplished. Let's level up. And now I'm done with it. So now I can just put it over there. I have it figured out. I know what this is. Let's focus now on over here. Definition is everything. It really, truly is. It's everything. Through definition, we have the ability to articulate who and what we are. If you love shit like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want more shit like this, subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get your free Healing Garden starter pack. The link is down below. And if you really cannot get enough shit like this, become a member. All my masterclasses are free when you become a member. The link is below. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.